Hello everyone, my name is Joshua Rudd with Ruddshomefarm, and today I will show you what type of grow light to use and how to use it for your indoor plants. As always, check the link in the description for more information or to get my equipment that I use. Let's get into it. Alright, so first question we need to answer is what type of grow light that you should get. You should always be getting LED grow lights. They are by far the most efficient of all the lights. They produce the least amount of light. They last the longest. They're the most efficiently priced. They draw the least amount of wattage, and they create the least amount of heat that you have to cool. So, get that out of the way. We're only specifically talking about LED grow lights, and we'll go from there. So, after you understand that you need LED grow lights, next you need to get full spectrum grow lights. There's a lot of reasons for full spectrum grow lights. Plants are accustomed to the sun, and the sun is not red and blue. Okay, so LED technology has advanced over the past couple decades. Red and blue LED lights used to be kind of like the only things that they could do. Now they can get all sorts of different color LED lights. And so there's plenty of LEDs that have yellow, they have white, they are tinted a little bit more reds. They're called sun-like light, which is even better than just white. So honestly, red and purple, they're no longer really viable. They use more energy than the same white LED light. I've done a test before where I put a white LED light versus a blue-red LED light, and the blue-red LED light grew less, but at the same time used more energy. You could check out my other videos on that. So, you've got a full spectrum LED grow light. You want to invest money in a good one. When I started, I bought these flimsy $20 clip LED lights. I'll show pictures here. These are the absolute worst type of LED lights that you could do. Those things do not belong over your plants at best. Those things can be reading lights. Honestly, a poor reading light. You could probably do a little bit better if you bought an actual reading light. Or in the middle of the night, you need to have a hallway light. Those what those LED lights are for. They do not belong over the plants. A $20 light won't produce enough wattage, enough lumen to light your plants. Just don't even try it. So the two types of lights that you do want are either hangable, like the ones behind me. These hang in a rack, or you got ones that screw into a light fixture. Here, I'll show you. Be right back. Here, this is a Sansi LED light. See that? It even has magnifying lenses to increase the intensity of the LED lights behind here. This is a grow light. You screw it into a light bulb, and you hang it over your plant. It could be in a little desk lamp if it's a small plant, or if it's a big plant like mine. I use one of these. Be right back again. This right here, I get a long, tall lamp, those ones that you could buy from the store for like 20 bucks, and they stand upright. So we want one of those. I bought one of those. I took the wire out, and I just had the wire that dangles, so I could dangle it over. As you can see right here, we'll bring you down with me, that I hang it right here. And what I do is I just screw it in here, and then I hang it over my plant. I put the plant down there. And I do that with two different plants at the same time. And so this is what you kind of want to do. It could be a lamp, or it could be one of these hanging lights. So if you can afford an even more expensive light, the ones in the $200 to $300 range are the best. I'll show you the one I have over here in the picture. This one is very efficient. It only uses 200 watts, and the amount of lumens that it generates is amazing. And so that's way better and more efficient than these other lights behind me that only use 100 watts, 200 watts, but they don't produce any lumens. That's why I have to put them so close to the plants, whereas the one over here in the grow tent, I can keep them a lot farther away from the light. And even over time, the efficiency of the light it's actually cheaper to buy a more expensive light that uses electricity more efficiently than buy a cheaper light that doesn't use it as efficiently. So it's maybe about a year turnover before it becomes cheaper to use the more expensive light. So I'm gonna do a video on that, so stand by on that. Subscribe for that. Okay, hit the like button on this if you like it so far. All right, so the next topic: how much light do you need for your plants? Okay, so number one, I used a lumen tester to determine what the sunlight is outside and around the middle of June, July, when it's the middle of summer. And it showed that the sunlight has about 100K lux around midday-ish or something like that. So, and that's of course over maybe 8 to 10 hours worth of, you got sunrise and sunset and then midday and stuff like that. So probably a total of 100K lumen for over the course of 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours. So if you can use that formula to calculate how much light you could give your plants, of course you can give them a little less over a longer period of time. It can still equal total lumen per day. That's what you're trying to get. You're trying to get total lumen per day. So if you have a light that only has 500K or 50K, right? Yeah, 50K. Then if you put that over the span of 16 hours, it would be the equivalent of being outside for 8 hours. My favorite light, which is this one over here, only needs to be on 8 to 12 hours because it's literally as bright as the sun, fairly far away from the light. So once again, the more money you were willing to drop on a light, if you plan on doing this short term, you're just dipping and dabbling, maybe get a cheaper light. But if you really want to grow stuff for real, long term, then you want to get good stuff, good grow lights. It's where I highly recommend not, eventually maybe stepping up over to, but eventually your goal should be a very high quality grow light because it makes a difference. Try not to keep your grow lights on 24 hours a day. That's not natural for plants. Natural plants are normally accustomed to a dark cycle, day cycle. But, however, with that said, I do keep these lights on 24 hours a day, and honestly, it's not the absolute worst thing you could do to your plants. Especially these are really dim, super dim lights, and so in the seedling phase, I don't want them to grow leggy and stretch and stuff like that. So it's really important that I give them enough light early on so they're not stretching. So I do keep these on 24 hours a day, but I'm working on getting better and more efficient grow lights. Then I don't have to keep them on 24 hours. All right, so how far away should you keep your plants from your lights? So that determines on a couple of factors. Number one is the heat. How hot is your LED plants? Is your LED lights? So if your LEDs are notorious for being very cool, then you can get them fairly close. This is about 6 inches away from the plant right here. So my other one is way more brighter, and I have them between 1 foot and 1.5 feet away from the plant. It all depends on, when you're reading your lux and you're doing your calculation and trying to give your plant a full day of summer sunlight, you determine, okay, well, it's getting 50K lux per hour, and I multiply that by whatever, how many hours I have the lights on, and that's total lumens per day, and then I calculate how much that is according to the midsummer sunlight, and then boom, that's how close you need to put your plants. So it's all about calculation. That's why I like hydroponics. It's kind of like, there's calculations, there's, measuring. It's a lot more involved than outside in the garden and then just, well, if it's dark and my plants suck. But I really like making an efficient grow and growing plants the best way possible. All right, so common issues that you may run in when using your LED lights. That's important to know the several issues. So you need to know if your LED light is waterproof, or water resistant, or splash proof. Okay, so you can see these lights behind me. You see there's a little cover on top and these little mounds here. That's for vents. And so you could splash, it's splash proof. So if there's water up here and it splashes down on here, that's fine. Okay, they're made for that. And they're also splash proof. It's hard to see, but each of these little LED strips has like a little plastic tube covering over it. And that prevents, if you were to accidentally splash water into them, then, you know, no big deal. However, these little cheap purple lights that you're not supposed to buy, they're not waterproof or splash proof. So if you splash a little water up here, expect it not to work within a day or two. They're not waterproof in the top either. So looks like this one's got a little water on it. You see, you just get a little water and then you rust out a bolt. The water is not waterproof here, so it'll get into this crack, and then once it gets in there, you'll get like, wherever the water gets will be like a little circle of non-working LED lights. So make sure to check if it's water resistant. Actually, you need to know that before you buy it. So like these, I cannot put anything that, I can't stack things above these like that. I can't stack, you know, I got a seedling tray with a dome that a humidity dome, and the humidity dome is going to drip down onto the grow lights underneath it. But those are splash proof, so that's okay. This, definitely not. Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I don't even know why I have these. I have these, I test to make sure I do different tests with purple lights. But that's the only reason why I have these. I don't use these as my main grow. Some people still do, but that's up to you. Another thing you want to worry about is to make sure that your temperatures are within the range you want them. My super grow LED light, we'll call it, it generates a little bit hotter than normal, all the other ones. So maybe 80, 90 degrees, and it's in the grow tent. So I have a temperature measuring device in there to make sure it doesn't get above 80 degrees. We want to keep temperatures between 80 and 70. Maybe 85 might be like the upper limit, and like 65 is the lower limit. That's most plants like between 70 and 80. And obviously keep water away from your plugs and other stuff. You know, just because the light is splash proof doesn't mean you want to have water around the plug and where you're connecting it into the wall. We don't want this to become a deadly activity by, you know, water and electricity still don't mix. I don't think they'll ever mix. They're just not made for each other. Okay, so the last thing, when you need to know how much total electricity you're using, so all these are connected into one plug. So I have on the wall, I monitor how much wattage I use total. And so that never needs to exceed 1200 watts because most circuits are rated for 15 amps. And at 120 volts, the highest you could have using that is 1500 watts. So if you exceed 1500 watts, you'll trip that breaker, and then you have to come and reset it. And so when you're doing that, there's of course, you know, ups and downs, you know, nothing's ever stable. So you shouldn't plan to use 1500 out of 1500. You want to have at least 15 to 20% room for wiggle room. You don't want to be at that upper limit. So I would suggest only 1200 watts total per circuit. And sometimes there are multiple plugs per circuit, so you need to know your house. You need to know what circuits are connected to each other. So just because you plug it into a different outlet doesn't mean it's on a different circuit. So you need to take that into effect. Anyways, I hope you liked the video, and if you like my tools equipment, they're on links in the description below. Check out my 11-step guide. Check everything out in the description. It's always full of helpful material and stuff that you can learn more about the subject. Until the next video, bye-bye.